I stood in the lawyer's office, my hands shaking as I stared at the inheritance papers. My younger brother David got the house. The beautiful $650,000 lakeside property in Whitefish that Dad had retired to 5 years ago, plus $500,000 in investment accounts. Clean, simple, valuable. And me? I got Dad's old auto repair shop. The same run-down garage on the edge of Billings that had been closed for 3 years. The building with the leaking roof and cracked foundation that Dad couldn't even sell before he got too sick to care. 62 years old, and I was still the disappointment. David didn't even try to hide his smirk. He sat across from me in his pressed suit, his lawyer wife Linda beside him, both of them looking like they'd already calculated how fast they could flip that Whitefish property for a profit. My younger brother had always been the golden one. Straight A's, full ride to college, corporate job, perfect family. Meanwhile, I'd spent 40 years swinging hammers and managing construction crews, my hands permanently stained with grease and calluses. The real knife in my chest came that evening when I got home to tell Margaret, my wife of 35 years. She was packing. "Where are you going?" I asked, my voice hollow. Margaret didn't even look up from folding her clothes. "My sister's. I already called her." "What?" "Why?" She finally turned to face me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Disgust. "Because I'm done, Robert. I'm done waiting for you to amount to something. Your brother gets a mansion and investments, and you get a worthless garage? Even your own father knew which son was worth something. Marge, that's not. Don't." She held up her hand. "I've spent 35 years watching you work yourself to the bone for what? A modest house? A truck that's older than our marriage? I look at David and Linda, and I see what life could have been. What it should have been. I provided for us," I said quietly. "I always provided." "Provided?" She laughed, sharp and cruel. "You survived. There's a difference. I'm 60 years old, Robert. I don't have time to wait anymore for you to figure out how to be successful. Your own father saw it. He gave you the garbage and gave David the treasure. That tells me everything I need to know." She grabbed her suitcase and walked past me. At the door, she turned back one last time. "Don't call me. I need space to think about whether this marriage has any future." The door clicked shut, and I stood alone in the house that suddenly felt too big and too empty. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my recliner, Dad's inheritance papers spread across the coffee table, and stared at the description of the property. Murphy's Auto Repair, 2847 Highway 3, Billings, Montana. Includes building, land, 2.3 acres, and all contents therein. All contents. What contents? The place had been locked up for 3 years. Dad had moved to Whitefish after Mom died, said he couldn't stand to look at the shop anymore without thinking of her. She used to bring him lunch every day, sit in the office and do the books while he worked. After the cancer took her, the heart went out of him too. By sunrise, I'd made my decision. If this was all I was worth to my own father, if this was all I meant to my own wife, then I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to understand why I'd been given the garbage. I threw some clothes in a duffel bag, grabbed my toolbox from the garage, and loaded up my truck. The drive from my house in Laurel to Billings was only 20 minutes, but it felt like crossing into another life. The shop sat off Highway 3, exactly where I remembered it. The building looked worse than I'd imagined. The blue paint had faded to a sick gray, and the big sign that used to read Murphy's Auto Repair, Best in Billings, hung crooked, 2 letters missing. The parking lot was cracked and full of weeds pushing through asphalt. The chain-link fence around the property sagged in places. I sat in my truck for a long moment, just staring. This was my inheritance. This was what Dad thought I was worth. The lawyer had given me the keys, 3 of them on a ring with a faded keychain that read World's Best Dad. I recognized it immediately. I'd given it to him for Father's Day when I was maybe 10 years old, saved up my allowance to buy it at the drugstore. He'd kept it all these years. My throat tightened as I unlocked the front gate. The hinges screamed in protest. I crossed the weed-filled lot and approached the main building. It was bigger than I remembered, actually. 2 large bay doors for the repair bays and a smaller entrance to the office. The windows were so filthy I couldn't see inside. The key turned in the lock, and I pushed open the door. The smell hit me first. Not rot or mildew like I'd expected, but oil and metal and something else. Something that smelled like my childhood. Like Saturday mornings when Dad would bring me here, let me hand him tools while he explained what each one did. I found the breaker box and flipped the main switch. To my surprise, the overhead lights flickered on. Someone had kept the power on. Probably automatic bank payments that no one had canceled. The office was exactly as I remembered. Dad's desk, still cluttered with old invoices and parts catalogs. Mom's little filing cabinet in the corner, probably still organized the way she liked it. Calendar on the wall, still showing June 2019, the month Dad had locked up for the last time. But it was the repair bays that made me stop breathing. The place wasn't empty, not even close. There were cars, covered in dusty tarps, but definitely cars. I could see their shapes, 4 or 5 of them at least, arranged throughout the 2 large bays. Along the walls, metal shelving units reached to the ceiling, packed with boxes and equipment. My hands trembled as I grabbed the corner of the nearest tarp and pulled. The fabric fell away, and I stared. A 1967 Shelby GT 500, pristine. The candy apple red paint gleamed even under the dust. I knew this car. Not this specific one, but the model. These things were worth serious money. I'd seen one sell at an auction on TV for over $200,000. I moved to the next tarp. 1969 Chevrolet Camaro Z28. Factory original. My heart was pounding now. I uncovered the next one. 1970 Plymouth Superbird. The one after that. 1963 Corvette split window. By the time I'd uncovered all 7 vehicles, I was sitting on the concrete floor, my back against the wall, trying to process what I was seeing. These weren't just old cars. These were museum pieces, each one worth anywhere from $150,000 to $400,000, based on what little I knew about classic car values. But that wasn't all. I forced myself to stand and started examining the shelving units. The boxes were labeled in Dad's handwriting. Hemi 426 original, Cobra Jet 428 parts, GT 40 components. I opened one box and found engine parts wrapped in oiled cloth, protected and preserved. Another box held a complete interior set for a Boss 429, still in the original packaging. The entire shop was a treasure trove. Not junk, not garbage. A carefully curated collection of automotive history. I found Dad's office in the back and sank into his old chair. On the desk was an envelope with my name on it. My hands shook as I opened it. The letter was in Dad's handwriting, shaky but clear. Robert, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you about this in person. I'm sorry for a lot of things. Your mother and I started collecting these cars 40 years ago. Every time we had extra money, instead of fancy vacations or a bigger house, we bought another piece of automotive history. We did it quietly. We never told anyone, not even you boys. Your mother was the smart one. She said these would be worth something someday, and she was right. But more than that, she said we were preserving something real, something with soul. I kept this place locked after she died because I couldn't bear to sell any of it. Every car, every part, she had a hand in choosing. This was our life's work. I'm leaving it to you because you're the only one who would understand. David is a good son, but he sees dollar signs. He'd have this entire place liquidated within a month, never appreciating what these machines represent. You, Robert, you understand what it means to build something with your hands. You know the difference between price and value. I'm not giving you garbage, son. I'm giving you the most valuable thing I own. Not because of what it's worth in money, but because I trust you to protect it, to preserve what your mother and I built. Your brother got the house because he needs security. You get this because you're the one I trust. Love, Dad. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put my head in my hands and cried like I hadn't cried since Mom's funeral, not from sadness. From relief, from understanding, from the weight of finally knowing that I wasn't the disappointment, I was the trusted one. Over the next several days, I practically lived at the shop. I brought a sleeping bag and camped out in the office. I went through every box, every file, every piece of paper. Mom's meticulous records were all there. Purchase dates, prices paid, restoration notes, appraisal documents from years ago. The total value was staggering. The 7 complete cars alone were worth approximately $2 million. But the real treasure was in the parts inventory. Rare components that restoration shops and collectors would pay obscene amounts for. A complete, numbers-matching 427 Copo engine. Original Boss 429 cylinder heads, still in Cosmoline. A set of 4 original Shelby Cobra wheels. Dozens of other items that meant nothing to most people but were worth thousands or tens of thousands to the right buyer. I found purchase orders for the property too. The 2.3 acres the shop sat on. Dad had bought it in 1979 for $12,000. The folder contained a recent appraisal, dated just 6 months before Dad died. The land alone was now worth $1.8 million. Billings had grown, and this highway frontage was prime commercial real estate. I did the math on a legal pad, my construction manager brain-tallying numbers the way I used to estimate job costs. Conservative estimates put the total value at somewhere north of $35 million. If I liquidated everything at market value, I'd have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. But sitting there in Dad's office, surrounded by the accumulated work of my parents' 40-year passion, I realized something. I didn't want to sell it, any of it. This wasn't about money. This was about legacy, about trust, about my father knowing that I would see what he and Mom had built and understand its value beyond the dollar amount. I started making plans. The building needed work, but I'd spent 40 years in construction. I knew how to rehab a structure. The roof could be replaced. The foundation could be reinforced. The bays could be brought up to modern standards while preserving the character. I could turn this place into what it was meant to be. Not just a storage facility, but a proper automotive museum and restoration shop. A place that honored what Mom and Dad had created. I was measuring the walls for new drywall when my phone rang. "David." "Hey, Bob," he said, his voice tight. "Listen, I've been thinking about Dad's will." "Yeah? It doesn't seem fair, you getting that shop. I mean, I know it looks like I got more, but that property has commercial value. You could probably get a decent price if you sold it to a developer." I said nothing, just let him talk. "So I was thinking maybe we should split things more evenly. You know, I could take some of the cash from selling the shop, help you out. That way we're both on equal footing." I almost laughed. "That's generous of you, David. I mean, we're brothers, right? Dad probably didn't realize the shop had any value. He was pretty out of it at the end. It wouldn't be right for you to get stuck with nothing while I'm sitting on all this equity." "I appreciate that," I said carefully, "but I'm going to keep the shop." Silence. "Then, keep it?" "Bob, it's a dump. What are you going to do with it?" "That's my business." "Come on. Don't be stupid about this. You could get maybe $2 million for the land if you're lucky. I'm trying to help you here." $2 million. He had no idea. "Thanks for the offer, David. But I'm good." "Linda thinks we should contest the will," he said, his voice harder now. Dad wasn't in his right mind. "That shop should be sold, and the proceeds split evenly." "Linda can think whatever she wants," I said. "The will is legal. The shop is mine, and I'm keeping it. Have a good day, David." I hung up before he could respond. Margaret called next. Her sister must have told her I wasn't falling apart without her, because her tone was different, careful, almost sweet. "Robert, hi. I've been thinking about us." "Have you?" I was hasty. Leaving like that, I was upset and confused. "But we've been married 35 years. That has to mean something." "It did mean something," I said. "Right up until you told me I'd never amount to anything." I was angry. "You know I didn't mean it. Listen, why don't you come to dinner at Carol's tonight? We can talk about this like adults." "I'm busy." "Doing what?" "Robert, you're retired. You have nothing but time." "I'm working on the shop." "The shop?" She laughed. "Honey, just sell that place. We could use the money. Maybe take a nice trip. We could go to Italy like we always talked about." "We?" She said we like she hadn't walked out the door a week ago. "The shop isn't for sale," I said. Don't be stubborn. It's a pile of junk. Your father left you garbage and you know it. There's no shame in cutting your losses. Margaret, I said slowly, Dad didn't leave me garbage. He left me something you could never understand. Something David could never understand. He left me trust. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that you gave up on me the second you thought I got the bad end of a deal. You didn't even give me a chance. You just assumed I was worthless because that's what you've always thought, haven't you? Deep down? That's not true. It is true. And you know what? I'm done trying to prove myself to people who've already made up their minds about me. Don't call me again unless it's through a lawyer. I think we both know this marriage is over. I hung up on her too. The work on the shop became my meditation. I spent my days pulling permits from the city, hiring contractors I'd worked with over the years, and planning the renovation. I spent my evenings in Dad's office, reading through Mom's notes about each car, learning their stories. The 1967 Shelby had been purchased from an estate sale in 1983. Mom's note read, "Widow didn't know what she had. Paid $8,000. Worth 20 times that already. The Superbird had come from a barn find in North Dakota. Owner thought it was junk. Offered us $500 to haul it away. Best $500 we ever spent. They'd been smart, patient. They'd seen value where others saw junk. And they'd built something remarkable." About 3 weeks in, David showed up at the shop. I was in the office working on architectural plans when I heard the gate rattle. I walked out to find him standing there in his expensive suit, looking completely out of place. "The gate was locked," he said. "Yeah, it's private property. I'm your brother. That doesn't give you a key." He looked past me at the shop. "Can I come in? I want to talk." I almost said no, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened the gate and led him to the office. He looked around at the papers spread across the desk, the architectural plans, the contractor estimates. "What is all this?" he asked. "Plans to renovate." "Bob, this is insane. You're going to spend money fixing up this dump? Just sell it." "It's not a dump. It's an old garage in a bad part of town. It's a museum," I said. "Or it will be." David stared at me. "A museum? Of what?" I decided to show him. I led him into the main bay and started pulling tarps. His eyes went wide as each car was revealed. "What? Where did these come from?" "Dad and Mom. They collected them over 40 years. He walked around the Shelby, his mouth open. "This is real?" "All of them are real." "How much are they worth?" "A lot." "How much is a lot?" I looked at my younger brother, the golden child, the successful one, the one who'd gotten everything handed to him and still thought he deserved more. "Enough that you don't need to worry about it." His face changed. I saw the calculation happen in real time. "We should sell them. Split the proceeds." "No. Bob, be reasonable. These are just sitting here. They're not doing anyone any good. We could both make millions. They're not for sale." "You're being selfish," he said, his voice rising. "These should be part of the estate. They should be split evenly. Dad left them to me. Not us. Me. Because he was senile. Because he trusted me," I said quietly. "He knew exactly what he was doing, David. He gave you security. He gave me responsibility. And he knew you'd want to liquidate everything immediately while I'd understand what this actually means." David's face flushed red. "You think you're better than me?" "No. I think I'm different from you. And Dad knew that. This is bullshit." He turned and walked toward the door. "Linda was right. We're contesting the will. You're not going to steal my inheritance." "I'm not stealing anything. I'm preserving what Mom and Dad built. If you can't understand the difference, that's your problem." He slammed the gate on his way out. I didn't hear from him again, but his lawyer sent a letter threatening legal action. My lawyer, a guy I'd worked with on construction contracts, reviewed everything and laughed. "The will is airtight. Your father was of sound mind, had 2 witnesses, and filed everything properly. Your brother doesn't have a case. This is a nuisance suit at best." The letter from Margaret's lawyer came 2 weeks later. Divorce papers. She wanted half of everything, including the shop. My lawyer handled that too. She abandoned the marriage. She has no claim to an inheritance you received after the separation. Plus, this is Montana. Inherited property is separate property. She's not getting anything close to half. I signed the papers without hesitation. 35 years, and it ended with a signature. But I felt lighter than I had in months. The renovation took 4 months. I hired good people, paid them well, and supervised every detail. We replaced the roof with new metal panels, reinforced the foundation, installed climate control to preserve the vehicles, refinished the concrete floors, updated all the electrical and plumbing, built proper display areas with lighting designed to showcase each car. The office became a proper reception area, with Mom's meticulous records framed on the walls alongside photos of her and Dad from over the years. I found pictures of them at car shows, at auctions, standing proudly next to their latest acquisition. Their story deserved to be told. I hired a young woman named Sarah, a recent Montana State graduate with a degree in business management and a genuine love for classic cars. Her enthusiasm reminded me of Mom. She helped me set up the business structure. Not a sales operation, a museum and restoration facility. We'd charge admission for tours, and we'd take on select restoration projects for serious collectors. The goal wasn't maximum profit, it was sustainability and preservation. The grand opening was on a Saturday in September. I invited the local classic car club, placed ads in automotive magazines, and contacted the Montana Historical Society. Over 300 people showed up. They walked through the bays, admiring the collection, reading the stories of each vehicle. Several offered to buy cars on the spot. I politely declined every offer. David showed up. Linda was with him. They stood in the back, watching the crowd, watching me give tours and talk about Dad and Mom's vision. I saw the moment David finally understood what he'd missed. This wasn't about money, it was about legacy, about being part of something that mattered. He approached me near the end of the day. "Bob, don't," I said. "It's okay. It's not okay. I was wrong. About all of it. Dad knew what he was doing." "Yeah," I said. "He did. I'm sorry. For everything. For the lawsuit threat. For not understanding." I looked at my younger brother and saw something I hadn't seen in years. Humility. "You got what you needed, David. The house, the security, the financial stability. That's not nothing. Dad gave you those things because he loved you and wanted you to be comfortable. But he gave you this. He gave me this because he knew I'd protect it. That's not better or worse. It's just different." David nodded slowly. "Linda and I are selling the Whitefish house. We're going to buy something smaller. Invest the difference. That's smart. It's what Dad would have wanted, not us living beyond our means to prove something." He extended his hand. I shook it. Margaret never came to the opening. I heard from mutual friends that she and her sister had moved to Arizona, trying to find themselves or some such. I hoped she found whatever she was looking for. I'd already found what I needed. The museum became modestly successful. We weren't getting rich, but we were covering costs and paying Sarah a decent salary. More importantly, we were educating people, preserving history, honoring Mom and Dad's work. I sold exactly one item from the collection. The land. Not all of it, but the back acre that wasn't being used. A developer wanted to build a small retail complex and offered $1.2 million for it. I took the deal, used the money to establish a proper endowment for the museum, ensuring it could operate in perpetuity. The rest of the collection, all the cars and parts, I placed in a trust. When I die, it goes to the Montana Historical Society, with instructions that it must remain intact and publicly accessible. No one can liquidate it. No one can sell it off piece by piece. It exists as a complete collection, a testament to two people who saw value where others saw junk. I'm 63 now. It's been a year since Dad died, since my whole life fell apart and then came back together in a way I never expected. I live in a small apartment above the museum office. I wake up every morning and walk downstairs to the shop, and I feel Dad's presence in every corner. I see Mom in every carefully documented record, every thoughtfully chosen addition to the collection. People ask me if I regret not having the house like David got, if I'm angry about the inheritance seeming unfair at first, If I miss Margaret, the answer is no to all of it. My father gave me the greatest gift he could. Not money, though there's plenty of that. Not property, though I have that too. He gave me trust. He looked at his two sons and decided that I was the one who would understand, who would protect, who would see beyond the dollar signs to the real value underneath. And he was right. I'm not rich, but I'm wealthy in ways that matter. I have purpose. I have legacy. I have the satisfaction of knowing that something my parents built will outlive all of us. Last week, a young couple brought their 10-year-old son to tour the museum. The boy's eyes lit up when he saw the Shelby, and he peppered me with questions about horsepower and torque and gear ratios. His father smiled apologetically, but I waved him off. I spent an hour with that kid, showing him the engine, explaining how things worked, letting him sit in the driver's seat. When they left, the father shook my hand and said, "Thank you for preserving this. My son won't forget this day. Neither will I." Because in that moment, I understood what Dad had been trying to tell me all along. Some inheritances are measured in dollars. Others are measured in trust, in legacy, in the responsibility to protect something meaningful and pass it on. I got the better deal. I just didn't know it at first. And now, every single day, I get to honor the two people who believed in me enough to give me their life's work, who saw value in me when I couldn't see it in myself, who trusted me with something precious and knew I wouldn't let them down. That's worth more than any mansion, more than any investment portfolio, more than anything else my father could have given me. He gave me purpose. He gave me meaning. He gave me the chance to be worthy of his trust. And I am. Every day I am.